Until they bring the streetcars back. Chapter 18. I told Tom I wouldn't do it anymore, and when I didn't call Lola by Thursday, she caught me in the hall after third period, and she asked me to the dance Saturday night. Holy cow, I melted like grilled cheese when she begged with her eyes, and I tried to figure out what color they were, and the only word that came out of my spastic mouth was okay. Scott had his father's '49 Kaiser with a 100-horse straight six and a big ivory steering wheel with a dash like a fighter plane, and I got grease on my shirt looking under the hood. I was feeling pretty good because we knocked off Cretan Friday afternoon in their gym, and we only beat them about once every 37 years. Scott picked up the six of us before Sandy, like he was putting off death. But it wasn't that he didn't like Sandy, he was scared of her. When we got to the dance, the girls acted like they didn't have dates. They danced the Lindy Hop together because we didn't know how, and it seemed they spent half the night in the girls' lavatory. Lola and I danced a few times, and she only danced with Tom once, like they were taking it easy before the big formal. Afterwards, we ate at the drive-in and drove around for a while, but with the cuckoo combination of couples and his bashfulness around Sandy, I knew there was a better chance of Scott driving over Minnehaha Falls than parking. Let's go knock on that crazy guy's door, Sandy said. Nah, it's too late. He'd be sound asleep. Not tonight, we chimed in. Steve turned to the girls. You ever pull a trolley? No, that sounds super, Lola said. Let's do it. What if we get caught? Jean said. Will we go to jail? No, Steve said and laughed. But you might get dragged home to your parents. If my dad found out I was pulling trolleys, I said, I'd be safer in jail. Does it hurt anything? Sandy said. Nah, Jerry said. They just hook it up and drive away. Let's do it, Sandy said, and everyone went for it. Scott swung over to Grand and spotted a Grand Mississippi. Oh, no, you don't, I said. If we're going to pull a trolley, go over by Shelby or Snelling. That's my dad. This is my dad's line. Scott headed to Shelby, and the girls acted like they were going to Hollywood or something. I don't see why pulling the rope makes the streetcar stop, Jean said. It pulls the trolley off the cable, Steve said. There's a grooved wheel that runs along the electric cable, I said, and that's where the streetcar gets its power. It's like unplugging your toaster. Then why have a rope? Sandy said. It runs down to a spring-loaded reel that rolls up the rope if the trolley comes off the cable. Keeps it from tearing down the cross wires, she says. They call it a retriever. Sounds like a dog, Steve says. You really know all about them, don't you? Lola said like she was impressed. I ought to, I said. I've heard it 11 million times. Nifty, Sandy said. But we're all in skirts. You can run faster in skirts than we can in pants, Steve said. It sounds kind of scary, Jean said. That's what makes it fun, Lola said, snapping her gum. Some guys won't chase you, Jerry said, but others will come like gangbusters. My dad chases every kid who pulls his trolley like they were Nazis or something, I said, and I started feeling like a traitor. Over on Selby, we found a lonesome-looking streetcar coming from downtown, and Scott barreled ahead a couple of blocks and parked near a stop sign. We all bailed out and crouched behind a parked truck, laughing and roughhousing, waiting for the streetcar to come to a full stop. Then Scout and Sandy dashed out as the car began to move. Grab the rope, Scott yelled. Grab the rope. They were laughing so hard they couldn't run too fast, and Sandy tried to grab the rope as she ran, but the streetcar took off, and Sandy couldn't hang on. Ah, phooey, I almost had it, Sandy, as we piled into the car. Scott highballed down to Cleveland, a few blocks ahead of our target. It was Lola's turn, and I hid behind a parked car with her. I grabbed her hand, and we ran with her, and we reached the back of the streetcar as it was starting in motion. Lola grabbed the rope, barely able to reach it, and hung on for a moment, running along as the streetcar picked up speed. I've got it, she shouted. Pull, I yelled, pull. Gee, I wanted to grab it with her, grab it for her. She was so gorgeous, running, reaching up with her arms over her head, straining to pull the rope, like a little girl who needed help and protection. To heck with the streetcar. I wanted to wrap my arms around her and kiss her in the middle of the street. Lola couldn't keep up, and she let go and stopped under a streetlight, panting like she couldn't catch her breath. Oh, darn, it wouldn't pull, she said. You just about had it. He took off too fast. I put my arm around her and helped her carry her disappointment back to our cheering friends. We had to chase the streetcar over to Lake Street's bridge into Minneapolis, but Jean Dolly did it. The shortest of the girls. She had to leap to reach the rope, and when she got a hold of it, her feet came off the ground and she dangled with all of her weight and by accident jerked the trolley from the cable. And the streetcar blinked out on the tracks as Jean settled to the street. Run, Steve shouted, run. Without a plan, they ran in opposite directions. Steve hopscotched it to the left of the streetcar, the safe side, while Jean took off to the right, the side the doors were on. A pot-bellied conductor bombed out of the front door and spotted Jean ripping across someone's lawn. The guy was so surprised to find a girl pulling his trolley, he didn't chase her, and besides, he probably didn't want anyone seeing him running after a girl in the middle of the night, and I was better he'd never tell the conductors that a girl nailed his streetcar. I went along with the fun and horseplayed even though I was feeling lousy about Lola. Some of the time I could forget about it while went gunning for danger and excitement, but it wouldn't go away, and it came blasting full force when we called it quits and began dropping off the girls. It wasn't fun anymore, being with her like that. A storefront dummy who she must have thought was so dedicated to his friend that he didn't have a life of his own. Couldn't she tell how I felt about her? The Gaunt escort service was going out of business. I loved her so much to go on pretending that I loved her. Before I could snap on the light, I realized my father was sitting at the kitchen table. Just having a glass of milk, he said. Oh, hi. There was no glass that I could see. In his pajamas and robe, my father didn't seem so strong or sure of himself, like he was worn down and his bravery was hanging in the closet with his motorman's uniform. I hardly ever saw him in PJs except when he was sick, and I decided not to snap on the light. I left the back hall light on, and I felt awkward standing there alone with him in the shadows. You hungry? He said. A little. I found a bottle of milk among the leftovers in the icebox and fetched a glass in the cupboard, and I realized I was moving really slow and careful, and it felt like there wasn't enough air in the room. My mother had explained my dad's gloomy moods as the dreads. All Norwegians get them, she told me. I always wondered what it was my father dreaded. You going to have a carrot? No, just some milk, I said. Your mother can't figure out where those carrots go. My dad had never waited up for me. Could he possibly know that his son had been pulling trolleys on the Shelby Lake line? Geez, I started growing guilt like mold on old cheese, and I stood drinking the milk as the kitchen closed in on me. For my dad to be sitting up at this hour of the night had to be plenty serious. How's your date? He asked. Oh, okay. I wanted to tell him how much I loved Lola Muldoon. What did you do? Cripes, here it came. I could feel the blood rushing to my face and my hands were sweating, and it was lucky the kitchen was dark because with the light on, he'd had me dead to rights. We went to the dance, but the girls goofed off most of the night. Then we went to get some eat, and I'm going to lose my job. I was off the hook. This had nothing to do with me. I drank the cold milk because I did not know what to say. They're cutting 80 cars off the lines immediately, and everyone's on probation. There are going to be no more streetcars. No more streetcars. Crepes, he said it with such a tone in his voice. It sounded as incredible as if there'd be no more oxygen. When? As fast as they bring in the buses. Why are they getting rid of them? It's a crooked business. The streetcars could serve these cities for years to come. Everyone's out to make a whole lot of money, and they don't give a damn about the people. We hear GM and Firestone are in on it, and Standard Oil. They're going to rip the soul out of the city. The lump in my throat I carry home slid down and formed a 4-pound tumor in my stomach. I almost never heard my father cuss, and that only seemed to make it more terrible, telling me man to man that we might be poor, maybe on welfare. It scared me to see my father so sad and beaten. I can work full-time, I said. I can do lots of jobs. They'll probably keep me on until summer. You graduate. That's what this family needs most, getting that diploma. Then you'll be able to do a lot of things. Go on to college, learn a profession, or do something more. Drive a streetcar. I slid into a chair across the table from him. I think I'd like driving a streetcar, I said. I figured telling a white lie was all right if it helped someone feel better. From the corner of my eye, I tried to catch a glimpse of my father's face, but I couldn't in the darkness. Did you like driving a streetcar? I didn't mean to put it in the past tense. He didn't answer right away, stooped in the shadows. Yes, I always liked driving a streetcar. I figured I'd do it until they put me 6 feet under. I couldn't believe it because there I was, hearing my dad talk about his feelings, something I had never heard before. And it was like his dream blew up, and I could feel a piece of shrapnel rip into my chest. And I was afraid that his life would end when they kicked him on the Grand Mississippi line. I wanted to go around the table, over and scary, over that scary ground that we never dared cross, and put my arms around him and tell him how much I loved him. Gosh, I wanted to do that so badly, but I didn't know what he'd make of it, and I was afraid to try. You better hit the hay, he said. I put the empty glass in the sink and felt like a dope because I was sure there was something I should say if I could only think of it. Good night, Dad. Good night. I turned for my room like a deserter, leaving him sitting alone in the dark.